Good morning. In recent years, folks in my generation and below have come to use adulting as a verb, as a shorthand for the mundane but necessary tasks of successful adult life. Things like paying your bills and making dentist appointments, taking your bottles and cans to the recycling center, cleaning the lint out of the dryer. All of the things that a person needs to do to keep their life functionally on track, but nothing so glamorous that you would be posting about on social media. It's such a bother, this adulting that we have to do. And sometimes I cringe a little bit inside to think about how older generations would view this attitude about adulting, but that is perhaps a reflection for another time. In a similar vein, though, mothering is also a verb. We often think of mothering as nurturing, conjuring up images of pregnant women or new mothers nursing, or the commercials we see on TV about caretaking with thermometers and chicken soup when kids are sick. And while those are wonderful conceptions of mothering, for me, mothering has less of a soft and warm connotation. It's more of an action word with a little bit of an edge to it. I think for me, a better synonym for mothering is balancing. Specifically, balancing on this narrow tightrope that's fraught with choices that we make as parents in these moments that seem to have bigger long-term consequences than you can see in that moment, and trying not to sway too far to either direction for fear that you will fall off, hoping and praying to all that is holy that you just can cling on enough to not mess it up for good. On the one hand, we want to protect our children from dangers, but also push them to develop independence and confidence interacting with the world. Don't talk to strangers, but learn to check yourself in at the doctor's office. Fearful about them crossing the busy road for the first time, but also wanting them to have the skill and independence to confidently walk to their friend's house after school. Always be kind to friends and get along with kids at school, but if something's happening that you don't agree with or someone's doing something that makes you feel uncomfortable, then you have to say no. The kitchen is full of things that can hurt you. Be careful of the knives and the stove and, for the love of God, the water coming out of everything. But also, we want you to know how to use more than just the microwave at some point. All of these ordinary childhood moments are opportunities to protect, but also to teach, to stretch, and to grow. Are they ready now? Should I push them? Is this too much to ask? Should I err on the side of caution? Mothering, balancing. We want to protect our children from disappointment, but also give them the opportunity to learn from their mistakes. It breaks a mother's heart to see their child's disappointment when they miss out on something fun or that they've been looking forward to for a long time. But if I rush in and provide them with the forgotten lunch or the missing paperwork or the lost soccer cleat, is this missed opportunity to teach them about responsibility, the consequences of their own actions? At what age or in what situation are the stakes high enough that I bail them out, or that I let them have the teachable moment, letting them fail? Mothering, balancing. We want to provide our children with healthy food, access to medical care, and enriching experiences. It's wonderful to be able to enroll them into music lessons, sports activities, go on family vacations. Broadening our children's horizon is a gift. But when does access to all of these opportunities lead to a sense of entitlement in our children? How many activities are too many activities for a developing child? How much of their own money should we ask them to contribute toward the school trip? Are we being unfair to expect them to contribute anything at all? Or is this a good chance to develop a work ethic and a sense of ownership and pride? Mothering, balancing. And then, the really important balancing act, the importance of balancing the needs of this kid versus the needs of that one. Because while you love them the same, they are very different humans with very different needs, and a decision that benefits one may be detrimental to the other. What this one could handle at 10, that one still can't handle at 13. Pushing this one to work through their anxiety and try something new and accept an invitation somewhere, and then reminding this one to slow down and don't be overwhelmed and don't do so many activities. Worried that this one's gonna miss out on opportunities because they still refuse to jump through hoops just on principle, but concerned that this one is a little more self-sufficient than they probably should be. Mothering, balancing. For those who don't know, our family was built through both biology and adoption, and our kids are 16 and 18. And that comes with all the wonderful challenges and benefits that come with young adults. Thing one graduated from high school at the start of the pandemic, and they are living at home, taking classes at CCC and working part-time. I'm very grateful for the extra time with him and the opportunity for him to mature a little more before going out into the world. I'm trying to balance teaching him to be a respectful roommate, like, clean your bathroom and don't eat my leftovers at 3 a.m. But I'm also trying to balance that with the mantra of, if he was in a dorm, I wouldn't see this, just let it go. Thing two is downstairs at senior youth this morning. After going to prom with a friend last night, she's a little more than salty about being awake at this hour of the day. She's creative, adventurous, independent, and most definitely knows her own mind. Recently, she was talking about something that a friend's mother was doing for them and going on about the elaborateness of it, and I said, yeah, I'm not a very good parent. And thing two was indignant. That's not true, she said. You put in a lot of time and effort when we were younger so that we would turn out now to be competent people. She said, you're more like the lines on the car, the safety warning lines. She said, you're more like the lane sensors on the car. If we veer off too much, you just give us a loud reminder. Brush your teeth, slow down in the rain. Did you turn in your project? Wear a condom, don't do drugs. Call me if you need a ride. She said, you're a great parent. When it comes to mothering, I might not be always balancing on the tightrope, but it seems that I'm managing to keep it between the lines. And for now, that's good enough for me.
The late David Foster Wallace told the following story. There are these two young fish swimming along, and they happen to meet an older fish swimming the other way, who nods at them and says, "Morning, boys, how's the water?" And the two young fish swim on for a bit, and then eventually one of them looks over at the other and goes, "What the heck is water?" He went on to say that the point of the fish story is that the most obvious, important realities are often the ones that are hardest to see and talk about. The fact is that in the day-to-day trenches of adult existence, banal platitudes can have life or death importance. I have 3 poems to share with you today. The first is by a Portland poet, Lisa Gluskin Stonestreet, from her luminous book, The Greenhouse. It explores those first few steps of separation after a new mother returns to work, which in Stonestreet's case is writing. It's called After Dropping My Son Off at Preschool. The world slowly coming back. The luxury of stepping outside myself. Where is outside? Rehearsing for years now. I was a bubble, a greenhouse, a lens, clear like water, present like water, spreading, reflecting, ratcheting down the viewfinder, self being a place encompassing a small boy. Step outside yourself, ma'am, and no one will get hurt. Nobody got hurt. Not seriously. It's a goddamn miracle. The world is mine for 6 hours. Newspapers. I could read a newspaper. I have the luxury, the privilege. I mention this only to get it out of the way. Pedicure, they say. Money market account. Pilates. New York Times. Organic Tomatoes, LLC. And are you writing again? The ginkgo is dropping leaves on the sidewalk in front of the coffee shop. I want to have deep thoughts about this. The ginkgo is the most ancient of trees. I think I made that up. No, I Googled it. No, it is a luxury and a privilege to be such an idiot. Self being a place. The greenhouse encompassing 3 things: a mother, a ginkgo tree, a boy. He is always there. Now there are 7 or 8 toy vehicles there as well. He has framed, with his father's help, the leaf of a ginkgo, full and red, 2 blushing lobes, and hung it on his wall at eye level. The leaves accumulate in my pockets, the glove compartment, along the back edge of my desk. Some of the leaves make it into collages. Some are given names: Henry, Alice, Bizzo, Mr. Bzz. Some are ground under the wheels of the cars, which also have names. Plotted and planned and tracked and graphed, and still it came suddenly. Fogged the evil eye with its emerald swoon. The curving mire, the back-endness, rounded vowels through a scrim, a screen. No heaven, I thought, other than this. And, please God, just 10 minutes to pee. This is my job. And I am more than ready for it, and I am not ready for it. And what supplies have I packed for your journey? Water bottle, sunscreen, hats for sun and cold, snacks from the Japanese grocery, extra socks in a Ziploc bag. And oh, there is yet one part of me that breathes in and out at a quicker pace, that smaller, hotter heart. Drop off, pick up, the prescription, the renewal, the calls and clients, the days with their windows, rusty levers cranked open. I am back at the coffee shop 3 months later, 4, the ginkgo a pale green. I think this is where the metaphor breaks down. At night now, 2 stories, 3, I rub his back, inhale a more complex loam. I step around toy cars, the animals arrayed in sentry against the dark. I open the door, close it quietly, and the night opens up its hours, a few more, a few more. I believe parts of this poem will feel familiar to anyone who's had the full-time care of a small child. The many ways that you become so attuned, so enmeshed, that it can be difficult to find yourself again. And once you begin this process of separation, the baby steps of separation, you carry your love as a part of you, that smaller, hotter heart that beats faster but alongside your own. Years ago, I came across an essay on Salon by Aaron Traister, a full-time stay-at-home dad. It was called, "Is My Kids Making Me Not Smart?" I remember the relief I felt to hear a man express so many of the same experiences that I was having as a stay-at-home mom. He said, I can't tell you the last time I read something that wasn't about hippos going berserk. That being said, I would still jump at the opportunity to discuss the subtext of the book Hippos Go Berserk with another adult, because you take what you can get when you're a parent. There isn't even 10 minutes to pee, much less to read The New Yorker. So this getting lostness isn't limited to mothers. And I think it's not even exclusively something that happens when raising small children. The first heady crush of new love can be all-consuming too. You forget where one of you begins and the other ends. We've all known someone who seemed unable to talk about anything except as filtered through their new relationship. And many of us have probably been that person at some point. No heaven other than this, said the author in the poem we just heard, so attuned to the needs and feelings of another, staring into each other's eyes, and yet not quite able to engage with the rest of the world fully because of that enmeshment. These states can never last, of course, because invariably we come across the truth that we are, in fact, not merely an extension of one another. Children, in particular, will begin a long process of separating, of establishing their independent selfhood. I remember the first time my son said something that I hadn't taught him. I was so startled by his having a life independent of me. He was 3. And now he not only knows things that I haven't taught him, but so many things I have never learned at all. I learned from him. We learn from each other. Our next poem today is called Mother Talks Back to the Monster. It's by Carrie Shipers. Tonight, I dressed my son in astronaut pajamas, kissed his forehead, and tucked him in. I turned on his nightlight and I looked for you in the closet and under the bed. I told him you were nowhere to be found, but I could smell your breath, your musty fur. I remember all your tricks, the jagged shadows on the wall, the click of your claws, the hand that hovered just above my ankles if I left them exposed. Since I became a parent, I see danger everywhere. Unleashed dogs, sudden fevers, cereal 2 days out of date. And even worse, that feeling so much fear, even worse than that feeling of so much fear is keeping it inside. Trying not to let my love become so tangled with anxiety, my son thinks that they're the same. When he says he's seen your tail or heard your heavy step, I insist that you aren't real. Soon he'll feel too old to tell me his bad dreams. If you get lonely after he's asleep, you can always come downstairs. I'll be sitting at the kitchen table with the dishes I should wash, crumbs I should wipe up. We can drink hot tea and talk about the future and how hard it is to be outgrown. A few weeks ago, the streets were icy in the morning, and I told my daughter, who this year has started riding her bicycle to school, that I didn't think she should ride that morning. Mark, her father, my husband, an avid cyclist, said he didn't think the streets were that bad. No, I insisted, you have a lot more experience than she does, and you have those special tires, and she should walk to school. So he offered to walk to school with her. And on the way, they watched a couple of kids Seneca's age breeze past on their bicycles. Deadpan Seneca turned to Mark and said, "Their mothers don't love them." They've been ribbing me about this ever since. I've also been known to push extra layers. Don't you need a jacket? You should take a hat and gloves just in case. But none of them would describe me as a helicopter parent, I asked. I feel that I have often worried more about the emotional risks that my children face, the unkindnesses, the disappointments, and the heartbreaks that I cannot protect them from, that I would gladly carry for them. This is part of the human condition. Our loved ones out in the world taking risks, both emotional and physical. This is the balancing act that April was talking about, of mothering. Some of our loved ones have especially dangerous work, so it is not just mothers who feel this, anyone who loves someone. And some things, icy roads, deadly diseases, are a threat to everyone, regardless of how careful they are. And these past couple of years have brought that truth home forcefully. We've all been more aware than usual of how fragile life can be. And yet, it must be lived, risks and all. The question is, how do we hold each other through these fears, through the danger? Seneca will be 13 years old this week. Someday soon, it will not be my choice to make whether she rides a bike on a frosty morning. Already, she holds my fear for her tenderly, interprets it as love, hugs me and tells me fondly that she will be careful. And eventually, she will make her choices, and I will hug her and pray for her safety and pray that she will know that she is cherished. Our final poem today is written by Caroline Johnson from her excellent book, The Caregiver, in which she writes about caring for both of her aging parents. This one is called Alzheimer's Dream. You're a stranger to me now, though I've known you all my life. So long ago, I wandered into your kitchen to inquire when dinner would be ready, and if there were anything I could make. You smiled instantaneously, as you do now, and I helped you peel potatoes, snap green beans. But today, you forgot me again, and the day, and the occasion. But no matter. We're making baked potatoes, green beans, and steak, I think, to eat while we watch the imaginary parade and fireworks, an early 4th of July. Let's sit down here and talk. Let's look at the weather. Let's do everything to be together. Let's try not to remember, have a drink to forget that we ever met once a lifetime ago, when I called you mother, and I needed you so. In our first poem today, Lisa Stonestreet said motherhood is being present like water, reminiscent of David Foster Wallace's Fish. Not just motherhood, but all of life is made up of all these little mundane moments, preparing a meal together, washing the dishes with a cloth knitted by a caring friend, checking for monsters, checking in on a grieving friend, and reminding each other to bring a jacket. Sometimes we think that love is about grand gestures or glowing Facebook posts, but in so many ways, these everyday acts of nurturing one another are what it's all about. They are the water. May we never thirst. Amen.